It is about the folder. In live footage shot by Agence France-Presse, apart from the main theme, Hu Jintao, former Secretary General of the party, was unwillingly escorted out of the party's 20th National Congress. A sideline might bear the clue to the mystery of why this was happening. It transpired when Hu Jintao tried to read part of the document that was distributed by the Congress. Both Li Zhanshu, a politburo standing committee member and Xi Jinping confidant, and Xi Jinping himself stopped him. Is this really the case? If so, why did they not let Hu read a document that everyone attending the meeting had? The moments leading up to the escorting scene captured by CNA, a Singapore news agency, reassures that all conflicts revolve around this document. This footage, taken by CNA reporters before Hu Jintao was taken away, contains important information. We see that Hu Jintao originally picked up a piece of paper on the folder in front of him, but Li Zhanshu grabbed it from Hu's hand and put it under the folder while talking with Hu Jintao, so that Hu would not be able to see it. After a little while, Li simply moved the entire folder from in front of Hu to himself, so that Hu Jintao could not touch it. At the same time, he kept talking to Hu Jintao, as if explaining something. At this time, Xi Jinping called his assistant to him and spoke a few words to him. Li Zhanshu continued to talk to Hu Jintao. Then Xi looked in the direction of the staff member, and the staff member came over. Xi Jinping said something to him and pointed at the same document a few times. The staff member expressed understanding and approached Hu while removing the folder that covered the document, as if he were about to explain something about the document to Hu. However, Li Zhanshu stopped him and covered the document again with the folder. The next thing we saw is the staff member starting to get Hu Jintao out. Obviously, Hu Jintao was very concerned about this document. He couldn't access his own document, and later he reached out to get the document in front of Xi Jinping, and Xi Jinping immediately held down the document and prevented him from taking it. When Hu Jintao was being escorted out, Li Zhanshu handed Hu's document to the staff member who was taking Hu away. The implication is that Hu might read it only after he was escorted out of the room. So why is this document so important that Hu Jintao must not read it or open it to confirm something, while Li Zhanshu and Xi Jinping prevent it? In fact, we know what the content of this document is. October 22nd is the last day of the 20th National Congress. There were two main items on the agenda for this day. First is to elect a new Central Committee. Second is to pass the revised party constitution. Therefore, in this folder, there should be the final list of the Central Committee candidates for the Congress to vote for. To be clear, at the 20th National Congress, representatives are provided with an entire final list of candidates to vote on. You can vote yes, no, or abstain, but you can't write in your own candidates. Whose focus should be on this list, since whoever is on the list will be entered into the Central Committee, while the list also reflects by exclusion who definitely will not be entering the Politburo Standing Committee. All Politburo members must first be members of the Central Committee. This is the highest level of Chinese politics. Who was concerned with how many of his people, or those from the Communist Youth League faction, will be entering the Politburo Standing Committee. In fact, From the enlarged photo of the folder the staff member took from Hu Jintao, you can see the contents of this document. It indeed is the list of candidates for the Central Committee. Now the question is whether Hu had a problem with the list that he wanted to raise. To find out the answer, we need to look at what happened prior to the photo covering scene. From AFP's raw footage log, I found some very important information. First, the escort clip was shot on October 22nd at 4:47:12 Greenwich time, which is 12:47 p.m. Beijing time on the same day. At that time, the closed-door meeting in the morning was over, and the afternoon session had not yet begun, but the reporters were already let in to film. What did the closed-door morning session do? According to the AFP video log, at around 11 a.m., the new Central Committee was elected by the General Assembly. We all know that the biggest surprise about this election is that Li Keqiang, the current premier, and Wang, a Politburo Standing Committee member, were not elected into the Central Committee. This means they would not be Politburo Standing Committee members. They will retire, although both of them are only 67 years old and had not reached the party's long-standing unspoken retirement age of 68, save self-exception for Xi Jinping, now 69. Li and Wang belong to the Communist Youth League faction, whose head is Hu Jintao. The Youth League faction is known for its reform-oriented mindset. There was much speculation before the 20th National Congress that both Li and Wang would stay in the Politburo Standing Committee. Wang was even a possible candidate for the premiership, so their early retirement was a big surprise. This explains why Hu is very concerned about this list and wanted to look at it and potentially challenge this arrangement. Hu's son, Hu Haifeng, also was not on the Central Committee candidate list. This might be Hu's other concern. However, neither Li Zhanshu nor Xi Jinping let him look at the list. They did not allow this discussion to take place. So what happened in between? Could it be that Hu Jintao did not know in advance that Li Keqiang and Wang were not on the list, and he realized it only when he voted that morning? This is very likely to be the case. Hu Jintao could have been misled all the way to the voting day, believing that Li and Wang were on the list. This understanding comes from my interpretation of an article from the official Xinhua News Agency. On October 22nd, Xinhua News Agency published an article explaining how the Central Committee was elected. It contains some key information. First, the so-called election of the new Central Committee is overseen by the Politburo and its Standing Committee, with Xi Jinping as its leader. The candidates are first recommended by the local party branches. After they were strictly inspected and interviewed, the qualified candidates are submitted to the Politburo for further review. Then, on September 29th, the Politburo submitted 222 pre-election candidates for the 20th National Congress to vote on. 2 weeks later, on October 16th, the 20th National Congress was held. On October 18th, the 222 pre-election candidates were affirmed by the Presidium of the 20th National Congress to be voted on by different delegations of the General Assembly. This vote is called pre-election. This pre-election supposedly is the most important part of the 20th National Congress. It happened in the afternoon of 20th and in the morning of 21st, and the result is, out of 222 Central Committee candidates, 17 were eliminated and 205 were elected. For the alternate Central Committee members, 171 out of 188 were elected and 17 were eliminated. It also elected 133 members of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, tasked to keep the party in line. Devil could hide in this pre-election. The Chinese Communist Party has its own way of running the so-called elections. A common way is to inform the voters directly who to vote for by a party official. Another more democratic way is to let the grassroots fully discuss and recommend candidates. Then these candidates would be reviewed by the party leaders for political or other considerations. In the end, a totally different set of people will be elected. To put it plainly, the grassroots discussion and recommendations are just for show. Party leaders decide who will be elected. So in this case, if Xi Jinping installed some of his own people among these delegations and asked them to vote a certain way, the result could be easily manipulated. They could even simply announce the result they had designed because delegates cast secret ballots and the results wouldn't be revealed to them till the last day when they do the final election. So it is very likely that Li Keqiang and Wang were magically eliminated during this so-called pre-election. One more thing to note is that the person who oversaw this voting process is Chen Xi, a Xi Jinping confidant and minister of the Central Organization Department. But this pre-election scam has one logical challenge. According to the Xinhua report, the results of the pre-election were discussed and approved by the Presidium of the 20th National Congress on the 21st. But isn't this Presidium composed of Li Keqiang, Wang, Hu Jintao, and previous members of the Politburo Standing Committee? If the results eliminated Wang and Li Keqiang, would they agree to pass it? Would Hu Jintao agree to pass it? Well, that's the thing. None of the previous Politburo Standing Committee members attended this meeting, so Hu Jintao was not there. As for Li Keqiang and Wang, it is very hard for them to oppose the official voting results for the benefit of themselves. This is not how things are done in the party. Scanning through this Xinhua video report, and you can see none of the previous Politburo members attended the meeting.
中国共产党第20次全国代表大会主席团21号上午在人民大会堂举行第3次会议，通过20届中央委员会委员、候补委员和中央纪律检查委员会委员候选人名单草案。
Therefore, Li Keqiang and Wang already knew their destiny at the meeting on the 21st. But Hu Jintao and all other delegates only got to see the final candidate list the next day at the closed-door session when they cast official votes to elect the Central Committee members. At that point, they could only vote yes, no, or abstain. It is possible that Hu Jintao was shocked and angry when he saw the list because his people were excluded. He was trying to refer to the list and ask Xi Jinping and Li Zhanshu what happened. But they wouldn't let him look at the list and had him escorted out of the hall. Li Keqiang and Wang stayed poker-faced the whole time. My guess is they couldn't do anything since everything had been settled, but they were angry inside. By the time Hu Jintao was trying to challenge the list, the new Central Committee had been elected. We don't know how Hu Jintao voted beforehand, but according to Xinhua, the delegates cast secret ballots and the result was a pass. There is one more thing I would like to say. On October 17th, the Wall Street Journal published an article predicting who would be the new Politburo Standing Committee members. They got 6 out of 7 right. Does this mean they already knew Li Keqiang and Wang would not be elected into the Central Committee before they were officially voted out? Yes, it could mean that. Different CCP factions tend to send secret information overseas that favors their faction. So it is possible that this information was sent by Xi's confidant to the Wall Street Journal. It is also possible that Li Keqiang and Wang did not know they were already out by that time. It is not likely that this whole thing is pre-designed to insult and utterly crush the Youth League faction due to how they interacted and Xi Jinping's lengthy instruction to the staff member. But the result is the same. The removal of Hu Jintao and the packing of the Politburo Standing Committee marks the end of a reform-minded China. China officially enters into a Gan of Xi era in which a godfather rules, an advisor strategizes,
and 5 million follow.